Another major typhoon developing in the Philippine Sea. Latest on Typhoon Man-yi, Philippine name Pepito, as of 7 p.m. this November 15th, becoming a Category 2, about to reach Category 3 status actually, strengthening at this time, with an eye becoming clearer on this satellite imagery. Well, it is currently 110 miles per hour in our latest estimates, moving west-northwesterly at 18 miles per hour or 29 kilometers per hour. Pressure estimate of 965 millibars, and that movement will continue over the next couple of days, and it will track through the southern part of Luzon and then on to the South China Sea later on. It could make a landfall on Catanduanes or possibly pass just north and then continue into eastern Luzon. Well, here's its current position displayed on the map with its wind field extending out up to 100 nautical miles in the northeastern quadrant. It's at 11.3 north, 129.3 degrees east. Signal 2 warnings in effect for northeastern Samar. It is 390 kilometers from Guiyuan on the southern part of the island, 592 from Catanduanes, 604 from Sorsogon City, 710 from Naga, and 971 from Manila. Signal 1 warnings extending as far to the northwest as Aurora and for the whole of Quezon as well, and also for the island of Marinduque. So that's the latest on this storm, still strengthening at this time, and we expect that those signal warnings will also be upgraded. So the primary hazard once again is for more damaging winds, this one more of a wind threat than a flooding threat than previous typhoons. That is because it's not going to be producing quite as much rainfall, but there is still the potential for obviously more flooding, of course, especially given the recent track and of the other typhoons, of course, adding on to all of that. Winds of up to 200 kilometers per hour expected for Catanduanes and for parts of eastern Luzon this weekend. So this is the projected track then over that period of time, and we expect it will pass very close and then into eastern Luzon, more towards those earlier typhoon landfall points for that potential second landfall, or maybe first if it misses Catanduanes, and then out over the South China Sea, turning towards the southwest later on and dissipating somewhere off the east coast of Vietnam by the time we get to around the middle of next week. Well, currently 110 miles per hour is pretty much in the middle of all of the estimates right now. JTWC at their last update was 105, Pagasa currently near 110, and the JMA actually going 115 right now, and it probably is becoming a major typhoon Category 3 status in very short order if it hasn't done already. ADT estimates are hovering around that marker. NOAA ADT already up at 125 miles per hour, which is pretty impressive. Here's Pagasa's cone, and it is calling for a direct landfall on Catanduanes and then continuing further towards the northwest, probably giving Manila some pretty strong storm force winds there, and the cities nearby as well. And then the storm weakens after its landfall into the South China Sea and continuous weakening after that. Here is a depiction of those signal warnings then, extending somewhat inland as well, further towards the northwest there, but for the whole Bicol region and also for the island of Masbate and Biliran as well, let's mention those under Signal 1 warnings. Well, this is the latest GFS forecast, so showing that the storm will get a little bit stronger, probably calling for a Category 3 peak there, but I think it's performing better than what the models are currently expecting, so I think there is premise to possibly raise that estimate. Of course, the JTWC has been predicting a Category 4 mid-range, 145 mile per hour peak on their forecast, and their position hasn't changed during the course of today. So it certainly could get towards that level, especially after we just saw what happened with Usagi just a few days ago. Well, here's the reflectivity simulation. The reason why it probably won't deliver quite as much rainfall is that it's moving relatively quickly, and it does disintegrate quite quickly in of Luzon, but nonetheless it still is likely to be a big rainmaker for those areas that have already received storm typhoons in the past. And there it is again, with some extra rainfall really skirting along the southern coast of China as well as we enter next week, and some of it surviving into Vietnam as well. Well, looking at the rainfall totals then, like I said, not quite as high as previous storms, but still we are expecting some significant values, especially close to that final landfall zone, probably getting up towards 15 inches, getting towards 400 millimeters of rainfall there. But you'll see around it, it is a quite tight area of heavy rainfall. Further south, we're looking at much lesser amounts, probably maximums of 50 millimeters in the capital region, and down towards the southeastern part of Luzon, maybe some areas getting up above 100 millimeters, and for Catanduanes, possibly getting to 250 millimeters of rainfall there. And maybe again, that might be an underestimate there from the GFS. Well, sea surface temperatures still providing ample fuel for this typhoon, as it has done with all the others so far, with temperatures still pushing over 28 degrees Celsius. These temperatures tend to read low on this graphic, so probably closer to 29 or 30 degrees in a few spots, cooling down a little bit more when the storm moves into the South China Sea, but still staying warm. Along the projected track of the storm, it will be warm enough to sustain itself all the way through. So sea surface temperatures still at this time of year looking good. So let's take a look at how the storm is presenting itself on satellite imagery this evening. Well, this is how it's been looking in the last few hours, really blowing up a massive chunk of convection there on the northeastern side, and that started to wrap further around the northern side and now on towards the western side. So it's shoring itself up in terms of all of that eye wall area. The eye itself not particularly clear just yet. It was clearer earlier before all of that convection started, and I think it will pop out even more later on this evening, overnight tonight. By tomorrow we could be looking at quite a beast if this rate of intensification continues, and I certainly would caution that it could definitely reach category 4 status by the time we get to tomorrow. Looking at it right now, it is already looking pretty decent. Not a surprise that some satellite estimates already taking it up towards the higher reaches of category 3 status as we look at that eye once again. And here's the views from the Force 13 website, and you can access all of this imagery live as well. We've also got our automated stream, which is currently running as well, showing you the latest visuals of this storm 24/7. force13.com/satellite for these imageries here that we're looking at. Really showing those big bursts of cloud tops there into the -80s, and one or two small areas there briefly into the -90s there. Eye temperature hard to gauge because of all that convection recently. It's probably getting closer towards the positives, and this storm is definitely on an intensification trend and possibly the biggest threat to date.